heightenedness of the craziness has come along with us the last several months. And, you know, Courtney and I were speaking about this yesterday. What was that moment in where you needed to make this new music and video? Where did that inspiration kind of come from for you to say, hey, you know what? I'm tired of what's going on to our people, and I need to make this statement right now, musically and creatively?
The first thing I will say is that I'm really grateful and honored that y'all are here and are willing to use your power and influence, because to make a protest piece like this and not have anyone to get behind it and use whatever stage and platform they can to help further the interest, it would be just something that I'm sitting on that no one would ever see. I've never done anything more uncomfortable or been a part of anything more uncomfortable in my life. Anybody who follows me on Instagram or social media will tell you that I am very vocal, very outspoken. And when I tend to piss people off or rub them the wrong way is because there are topics and discussions that I'm not necessarily afraid to address, even if people don't agree. Yeah. But in this situation right here, this is not a Tyrese song. This isn't, I got an album coming out, I got movies, I got projects, and this is like something connected to something. George Floyd's death gave me life and awakened something in me that says Instagram is not enough. Yeah. Facebook is not enough. I need to do whatever it takes to use my God-given stage and platform of influence to move the needle and shed light. There's gonna be someone who is a racist. There's basically Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, attorney Benjamin Crump. These guys they will never see another birthday. They will never have another moment with their kids, their families, their parents. And it feels to me like there was a particular arrogance that came with the way that officer murdered our brother, King George Floyd. There was a particular arrogance that the officers had when they murdered Eric Garner. They are the law, and they are protected by the law. And when you have an evil, racist agenda, then they know that they are moving above the law and there are no repercussions that will ever follow. So him having his knee on George Floyd's neck and having his hand casually in his pocket, looking around, almost squinting his eyes like, y'all are filming me. There's 20 people yelling and screaming for me to get my knee off his neck. He's saying, I can't breathe. This is somebody's son, somebody's daughter. This don't matter. I'm gonna go home to my wife and kids tonight. We're gonna have dinner. Yeah. And nothing is ever gonna happen to me. And so I said, beyond Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, like everybody else who's speaking up and out about the things that have been traumatizing us all as a brown and black people, I just decided for the first time in my life and career that there is a song, there is a message, and there are some very uncomfortable images that God has put on my heart. And I'm gonna bring on Breonna Taylor to help me to implement. And hopefully, while I'm making this piece, I will be able to send this to the families who have their kids featured in this piece and have them to say, we're with you, we stand with you, we support it. And Attorney Benjamin Crump put me on the phone with Breonna Taylor's mother, George Floyd's family, Eric Garner's mother, and Trayvon's mother after they watched the video. And I mean, I probably cried for 3 days just knowing that God put something on my heart that's this uncomfortable, and that they're not gonna go on their Twitters or Instagrams to denounce or disassociate themselves from this short film, 846. So I have been stressed. I have been losing a lot of sleep. I've been uncomfortable, and it's been all tied into this heavy thing that God has put on me. And I just appreciate you guys for being willing to do this interview. And the most uncomfortable part about this interview is that I don't want to do interviews because I don't want this to be about me, because it's not about me.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you for sharing the art with us and taking what was put on your soul from up above out for us all to see. But in speaking to the fact that you've spent time, obviously, since George Floyd's death and everything, like going through this and creating this art, what do you feel like at this point right now? Because clearly, I mean, we spent a summer of, protests and rebellion, and we're thinking this went international. I know myself, for the first time, felt like, whoa, maybe something is really about to be different, because the world took notice after George Floyd and really were in the streets for us. And I felt supported. But then, of course, we get to this week and we've got Jacob Blake, and now we've got, the NBA on, they're striking from their games just to get people to notice again. Yeah. How do you feel having gone through the work of creating this art, and now we're at this moment, and it's kind of amazing that everything is being released this week, that this is happening again? What do you think the disconnect is, or that people literally, we're having to reignite all over again, or so it feels?
My attempted shortest answer would be, if the world ended tomorrow, whether you're a racist or you see the world through the lens of white people, Black people have never done as much damage, trauma, pain, hurt, and evil towards white people as they've done to us. Not all white people are racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body, but if the roles were reversed, if there was a such thing as white people that were put on slave ships and brought to America to then been auctioned, raped, murdered, working in the cotton fields, and every other story and scenario from the beginning, this world would be very different. For us to still be smiling, deciding, I do want to get married, I do want to have kids, a Black man, a Black woman get together, the idea and the sheer concept that when I get pulled over, I might die. The concept of I'm doing 45 and a 30, I get pulled over, and you look out your rearview mirror to then see that the officer already has his hand on his gun as he's walking up to the car, and you got your kids in the car, wondering that is today the last day. They will never know what it's like to live and be Black in America and to live in this skin every day. The looks, the energy. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on a balcony on April 4th. And his father, his kids, 4 kids, Coretta, they said bye to him as he left for the last time. This is how we feel. It used to be about Crips and Bloods, gangs, drug dealers, and the police officer saying, these are bad guys doing bad things, so it's bad things expected. But when you have innocent people, no drugs, no problems, not even a speeding ticket, sleeping in her apartment, and she was a woman of public service in Breonna Taylor, all of the police officers planned, plotted, assemble a team of officers. There's no body cam footage to ever be released. There's no cameras in and around her apartment. And it doesn't even feel like nothing is ever going to happen for there to be justice. It's painful. Yeah. It's trauma. And irregardless if you're living in the hood, Detroit, Baltimore, DC, South Central LA, doesn't matter if you've became successful and you've been able to live in better areas and better this and better that. It is our job and responsibility to make sure that we stay in tune with the reality of what's going on to us, going on with us as a people, and use whatever stage and platform and influence you can to continue speaking up and speaking out about the things that matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you got to get out of here soon, but where do we go from here as Black and brown people? I mean, we've gone through a lot, you know, these past months. And first of all, do you think that we can heal from this? I mean, this is a lot, you know.
Are you hopeful?
Are you hopeful? Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. And where do we go? Where do we go from here? How do we heal? What do we do?
Well, see, you got trauma and you got things that happen that are very traumatic. And then you got post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Okay. There are people that are 30, 40 years old who continue to relive the fact that they were molested in their minds or sexually assaulted or abused. And it's replaying in their head. That's post-traumatic. They're 40. That happened to them when they were a kid. And then they said, I just can't take it anymore. And then may decide that they don't want to live anymore because it's still replaying in their minds. Will we ever heal from this? No. Most of us can talk about slavery, and we did not live through slavery ourselves. But if you dig and do research and look at the videos and listen to the testimonials of the people who experienced that, they'll start crying right now in 2020. If you have a conversation with Jewish people and the Jewish community about the Holocaust, gas chambers, neo-Nazis, Hitler, and all that happened during that traumatic time, they will tear up, they will cry, because they still carry those. So if I will never be able to undo what I've seen, I will never be able to undo what I feel or felt. I will never be able to take these images out of my head of what's showing up on my timeline every day in all of our timelines. But what we have to do within the reality of the world that we're living in right now is we just have to say, let's not just have a problem with it. Let's figure out what we can do. Every person who has ever raised money on behalf of cancer, HIV/AIDS, the LGBTQ community, the Asian community, where there's now a spike in police brutality, racism, them being physically hurt and harmed because this coronavirus supposedly came from Wuhan. So now all Asians in America or anywhere else in the world are just dealing with things. As much as Black Lives Matter, I could say we all matter, especially if there's a spike in trauma and things that we're on the receiving end of.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting about people that would say, Black Lives Matter, yeah, all lives matter, get them out of here. I would agree that all lives matter. But there's a particular follow-up going from Black Lives Matter to All Lives Matter that feels like, why are you talking about you guys so much? Yeah. Talk about all the things that we're all dealing with. Do white people take up the majority of the prison population? Is there footage that goes viral every day, all day, about white people being murdered from just simply being pulled over? Or even if they're in a standoff in the middle of something, there's a level of excessive force, murder, corruption, cover-up, body cam footage that's somehow disappearing. And we have been on the receiving end of so many different things. It's still happening, and it's getting worse by the minute. And we're all trying to mentally and psychologically wrap our heads around COVID.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So much.
We're on Zoom right now. We're supposed to be doing this in person. I'm supposed to be hugging you and smelling your cologne, purple shirt. You know what I mean? I'm supposed to be sitting across from you, and the young lady on the phone, Courtney, decided, oh my God, I was so moved by 846. I want to cry. I want to express this to you. I want to look you in your eyes and pour into you and encourage you. We're supposed to have a human moment. We're all now in quarantine, and you know, I'm taking the coronavirus COVID test every 3 days while I'm working on this movie I'm working on now. But Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, and Eric Garner, which is featured in this 846 short film, AKA Legendary, with my brother King, CeeLo Green. This is not about us. I don't care to be relevant. I don't care for the buzz and the hype. We may end up being #1 for 20 weeks. It won't be a high for me. The only high associated to being #1 for 20 weeks is that all of the money, 100% of the proceeds raised from Legendary is going to go to the families and the victims of police brutality, murder, corruption, and cover-up to help them to survive. Can you imagine if Eric Garner's mother tried to go and get a job right now?
No.
Hey, quickly, this is Steven. So sorry to interrupt. We have the next interview in about 2 or 3 minutes, so if we've got to wrap this. Thank y'all so much for everything. Thank y'all for being here.
Tyrese, we appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate what you're doing with this message and this video. And man, it's going to mean a lot for us Black and brown people. It really is.
Go as far as you can to get the word out. I don't know the people you know. I have not done music or even interviews for a movie in a million years. So I have no idea how to go about getting this out. But we need as many people imaginable to see this. I have been dealing with more levels of backlash and pushback about releasing this than you could ever imagine. And I have just been praying that something I've been sitting on now for 2 months sees the light of day, and it's here. BET world premiere during the middle of the March on Washington, which is called Get Your Knee Off My Neck March on Washington. They're going to show the video in its entirety. And I just need you guys in my most vulnerable way to do this on behalf of the families, Attorney Benjamin Crump, and everybody else who has been murdered, killed, and they're just waiting to hear back from the detectives to get to the bottom of what happened, how it happened, so that they could finally get some sleep at night, knowing that justice has been served.